on the day and just do a little stroll up to the mine and check it out. And so they said, yeah, let's get out of here, stroll up to the mine and check it out, and then get out of here. So that's what we did. And I had flashlights and stuff, and so I went ahead and went into the mine. It's a narrow entry, very narrow. So you're shimmying on into this entry hole in the portal there. And I squeezed in through and started checking it out. And at the first junction, there's a mound of dirt that traps the water from exiting that mine. And so from that point forward, the water is about knee deep. And so that's where I stopped. And I set down my camera. This was a later trip. Sorry. So a second trip back in the next week, I set down the camera because I brought in GoPro and I was, oh no, cell phone. That's right. I recorded it with cell phone. And so I brought in my cell phone on a selfie stick. Oh, and I was going to film the mine, and that's what I did. So I set down the selfie stick and I brought rubber boots because I thought the water was shallower than what it was. And so I was thinking, okay, I'll keep my feet dry. Now it immediately knee deep and the boots were down here, so it filled them up. And then I'm sloshing in water for the rest of that. So I would have been better off with sandals. But anyway, so I set down the camera, I turned it off, and I'm switching over to those rubber boots from my shoes. And as soon as I had the camera off and I set everything down, and now I'm kind of in the dark, and I hear voices in the mine. And it sounds like ladies' voices, kind of like what you just heard her as she was walking by. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but I heard a lady's voice, which is really weird because that's not a common theme for mine. If somebody had died in there, the chances of a female being in there would be way less than a male. But there just weren't a whole lot of female miners, and I don't know the details about this one specifically, if there was no females or not. I really don't know. But when I set everything down and it's nice and quiet and I hear voices back there, and of course this is down the tunnel that's full of water, and I don't see any waves or any motion, ripples or anything in the water. It's completely still. And so it sounded like it was down a ways and maybe around the bend. And so, of course, the natural thing, hello. So I yell in there, hello. Nothing. So I do it again, hello. A little louder. Nothing. And so then I yelled back out, and it's a fairly straight shot. It's got a slight bend from that point to the portal. And I yelled back to Dan where I was and what my plan was. I'm going to go check out the rest of this. I'll probably be, I don't know, half hour or so. You know, I'm yelling this back out. He didn't hear any of it. So none of that noise transfers through. But anyway, from that point forward, I didn't hear anything, nothing weird. The mine is too dangerous to go in. Way too dangerous. It was one of those where as I'm filming and talking, debris is falling and hitting me in the head. You know, just talking like this. All right, so we're gonna check up over this, and there's parts of the tunnel where you're not even in the tunnel anymore. You're above it because it's collapsed so much that now you're above the tunnel. And as it collapses, it starts doing this little A-frame thing where it just gets narrower and narrower. So it turns into this tall slit. And at no point does that tunnel ever really fill in, but it just becomes so narrow that you can't go through it anymore. Because no matter what, you drop material from one point to another, it's still removed from above. It's just different now. But so eventually it does kind of close off because it never compacts down the same as what the material was up above. But anyway, so there's parts of that where it's collapsed to the point where you're above the tunnels. There's so many locations that have collapsed, and it's one of those where you touch the walls and it just crumbles. And so it's completely dangerous. There's no echo in most of it, which means it's not solid material. You know, you usually get that echo if it's a solid rock material and it's safe. So there's no echo, not safe, that type of thing.
That's a good metric to use.
Yeah, but I pushed as far as I was willing to go. It got to the point where I'm going through this little slit and I've got to brush both sides of the wall, which means they're going to start crumbling, and then it just drops down back into the tunnel again. So I'm above the tunnel in that little A-frame, and it drops back down and continues on, and then I can shine the flashlight through, and I saw another collapse and another one beyond that, and I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty much where I'm calling it, because to get through and drop down, I'm going to be brushing these, which means material's going to fall, which means it could start another collapse.
You don't want that.
And yeah, not when you're a mile in.
By yourself?
By yourself, yep. I had Dan on the outside, but I mean,
he's not a mine explorer.
Well, no, and not only that, he doesn't have any way to communicate. So he's going to sit out there until, I don't know, 6 hours go by and say something bad must have happened, and then go get help. And then if you're trapped in there, they don't know where you're trapped.
Or he's going to try and go in there, and then he's going to get...
Yeah, he wasn't going to go in there. He made it very clear at the beginning that he wasn't going to go in, and I made it pretty clear that, okay, if something goes bad, this is pretty much my tomb. This is where I'm buried. Because, again, for rescuers to come in and get you, how many months is it going to take for them to remove enough material safely with hand tools out in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, where it's a good hour just to get here on foot.
You'd have to chopper in.
Yeah, and then get enough equipment in to safely remove material, and then get that material all the way out. And when you're a mile in, that's a mile of hauling rock where there's no more rails or anything like that to be able to haul the rock.
Yeah, they're just going to be like, well,
sorry we did everything we could.
Sorry about your luck.
Yep. Well, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes, and that's what it would have been. So I decided that's as far as I was going on that wing. I did find some dynamite in it, so it's got some dynamite in there, and it's still packed in the sawdust, and nitroglycerin is leaking out the ends of the sawdust, and underneath you can see nitroglycerin.
Doesn't that make it pretty unstable?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna kick it.
I mean, you brush past it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Oh, I gave it a pretty decent berth, knee to your foot. I wasn't going to. And of course, then you're thinking, okay, what about the debris on the wall here? If I cause a rock to fall on that, is that going to be enough to make it go boom? And you've got a pack of 6 and a pack of 6 sticks of dynamite on both sides of this dynamite crate. So the crate's still sitting there. They just took one bundle there, and that's where it left.
It's old too.
It is. Yeah, it was California Powder Works, which I think went out of business in 1909. Went out of business, which means they got it before it went out of business. So, it's over 100 years old.
It had to make it all the way here from California.
Yeah.
By horse.
Yep.
Oh, it took a while.
Could have. It probably was train.
Yeah.
Back then they had lots of train. And I believe the historian may have misled me a little bit on this one, because I have a hard time believing this. I think it's got to be closer to the highway location where this happened, but he was telling me that the old S-curve of the railroad track went right over Willow Creek, which this is Willow Creek over here. Dropping down this hillside is Willow Creek. And so he said the train S-curve, it was a huge trestle bridge, and so it was hundreds of feet over the ground, and it S-curved over from one mountainside to the other over Willow Creek. Well, Willow Creek keeps going down there too, so I think he meant maybe closer to the highway. At the time, he was saying it was close to this mine. And so I was thinking immediately, well, that makes a whole lot more sense as to how they got the materials up here. Was if the S curve of that Trestle Creek went from one mountain to the other, then it makes a lot of sense to be able to drop all your supplies down from that track. You know, you just park the train there. And that trestle bridge got wiped out by a snowslide avalanche. And so there's famous photos of it where the caboose is down in the snow below and the next passenger car is dangling off the track.
Oh my gosh.
So it wiped out the trestle bridge and that passenger car was dangling and the caboose down on the ground.
Were people in it?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Nobody died allegedly. Which is
Can you
amazing.
imagine being held on by like a
The knuckle of the train? Yeah, I know. But
nobody moved.
so I'm looking around and I don't see how it's possible for the trestle bridge to be anywhere in this area because there's nothing flat enough for the train to run on to even get to this trestle bridge. So I think it's got to be further down. It's the only thing that makes sense. But so initially I was thinking, okay, it makes a lot of sense that it would be able to make a mine here. I mean, because people, they've got a lot of gumption to be able to come up to a spot and say, let's start digging here.
Yeah.
You know, but so initially it made a lot of sense, but then no, people had tenacity back then. I mean, they would go miles in search.
That's all they knew. They didn't have
Yeah.
a choice. They weren't lazy, latte drinking.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Starbucks cup carrying lady coming back from the lake.
Yeah. Passing me on the trail.
Yep, eating
Well, she only had a.
gummy nerds. Give me
She
some of
only
those,
had a-
damn it. They smell
Oh,
good.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna whiff them past you, and once you smell them.
Thanks. Bastard.
Uh huh. You can have some more too.
Nope.
They're addicting.
I know, that's a problem. But yeah, so that's all I've got for story hour, is those two strange events happening here between the voices I heard, which again, maybe my ears were playing tricks on me.
Was that in the mine over here?
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the general area.
Yeah,
Maybe
same
it's
direction.
Maybe it's haunted or something.
Don't know.